Just how cold can the Arctic get? Well, your normal freshwater ice that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, that freezes at about 0 degrees Celsius, because Celsius is actually based on when water freezes and when it evaporates. So this ice wall behind me that's at the Boston Museum of Science, this is going to be about 0 degrees Celsius for there to be actual ice. And this is ice you can touch, which is really cool. So freshwater ice is at 0 degrees Celsius. The thing is, for the Arctic, you actually have a lot of different temperatures other than 0 degrees Celsius. So the Arctic can get as low as -30 to -40 degrees Celsius for the ice, but that is only on the surface. Actually, when you get lower inside, it gets warmer, and it can go to about -2 degrees Celsius, so there's a huge temperature gradient. And this is because of the fact that it is salt water. So salt water is harder to freeze than fresh water, so it freezes at about -1.8 degrees Celsius. And the thing is, once the water freezes, then you have your air that is super cold, and it can cool the ice even further than the freezing temperature. So that's how it gets to -30 to -40. But ice is not a good temperature conductor, so it takes a lot for it to actually be able to move through. It goes very slowly. And so this is why the top of the ice is so much colder than the bottom. But the thing that's very important about this is that the warmth from the seawater will still travel through the ice, and that's how it is still able to freeze in that bottom. There is another interesting thing about the fact of it being salt water, is that again, salt water is harder to freeze than fresh water, and this is partially because when ice crystallizes, it doesn't like the salt molecules in its crystal. And so what happens is when the salt water does finally freeze, it actually will push the salt out of the ice crystal. And so what this forms is these little tiny channels that we call brine channels of basically it is like super salty water. And as more and more of this water freezes, it basically keeps making more and more salty water in between in these channels. Another thing too is the fact that snow is an incredibly good insulator, also does not conduct temperature well. And so because of this, snow can actually work to help keep the ice warmer underneath it and protect it from the air. So you actually not only have the ice protecting the bottom layer of itself, you have the snow on top of that also causing it to be insulated. And this is part of the reason why there are so many marine animals in the Arctic, is because it is a lot easier for them to live in the water because it is warmer there than on the surface.